We usually think of sleep as just hitting the off switch, right? But what if I told you that the moment your head hits the pillow, your brain is actually clocking in for its most important shift of the day? We're about to dive into what your brain is really doing on its night shift and how it's actively protecting your memory and your health for the long haul.
We have all been there. You have a terrible night's sleep, and the next day is just a complete blur. You can't remember names, you're misplacing your keys, you just feel like you're in a fog. So, what is actually going on inside our heads? Well, that brain fog isn't just a feeling, it's a very real sign that a critical biological process got skipped.
Okay, so to really get why sleep is so non negotiable, we've got to start with the basics how your brain actually makes and stores memories. It's a pretty cool process, actually, with two main players and a really small window of time to get it all done. I want you to think of your brain's memory system like an office. First, you've got the hippocampus. This is like your email inbox. All day long, new information is flooding in, but here's the catch it has very limited storage space. Then you have the cerebral cortex. This is the giant permanent archive room. For any memory to actually stick around, it has to get moved from that crowded little inbox into this massive archive.
So, how does that big move actually happen? Well, this is the most important part. During the day, your hippocampus is just collecting everything. But the transfer, this process called memory consolidation, that happens almost exclusively when you are in deep sleep. If you don't get that deep sleep, those new memories are just left sitting in the inbox, and they're basically deleted to make room for tomorrow's information.
So we know sleep is essential for saving our memories, but that's only half the story. While you're sleeping, your brain is also doing a critical deep clean, and this is where the connection to Alzheimer's becomes incredibly clear. It's a pretty wild fact. The simple act of being awake and thinking actually creates toxic byproducts in your brain. All day long, this metabolic junk is building up in the spaces between your brain cells, and obviously, your brain needs a way to get it out of there. And this is how it does it. It's called the glymphatic system. You can think of it as your brain's very own dedicated cleaning crew. It literally uses fluid to wash through your brain tissue, collecting and flushing away all that waste. But here's the kicker. This cleaning crew pretty much only works the night shift, when you're in a deep sleep. So what is this waste we're talking about? It's not just random stuff. The glymphatic system is specifically clearing out some really nasty toxic proteins, in particular two called beta amyloid and tau. Now, if those names ring a bell, it's because they are the exact proteins that clump together to form the plaques and tangles that are the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. And the difference in activity between when you're awake and when you're asleep is just dramatic. When you're awake, this cleanup system is barely running. But as soon as you hit deep sleep, it kicks into high gear. This nightly flush is absolutely essential. In fact, studies show that just one night of bad sleep can lead to a measurable increase in those toxic beta amyloid proteins. Okay, so we need sleep to clear out these dangerous proteins. But what happens when we consistently don't get enough? Well, this is where a truly vicious cycle can begin, a downward spiral that can start way before any major symptoms ever appear. It starts out pretty simply. A few bad nights, maybe a chronic sleep problem starts to develop. Your glymphatic system just doesn't get the time it needs to do its job properly. So those toxic proteins, beta amyloid and tau, they start to accumulate. And here's the really dangerous twist in the cycle. As these proteins build up, they begin to damage the very parts of the brain that are responsible for giving you deep, restorative sleep in the first place. So the protein buildup leads to worse sleep, which in turn leads to even more protein buildup. It's a devastating feedback loop that just accelerates the damage over time. And we can see this play out really clearly with specific sleep disorders. Take sleep apnea, for instance. Those constant drops in oxygen in waking episodes, they directly attack deep sleep and put immense stress on the brain. Chronic insomnia, on the other hand, is just straight-up sleep deprivation, robbing the brain of the time it needs to clean and file memories. Even just having a wacky, irregular schedule, that's called circadian disruption, can mess with these cleaning cycles and speed up cognitive aging. Now, I know this can all sound pretty scary, and it's really easy to start worrying every single time you forget where you put your keys. So it is so important that we draw a clear line between normal sleep-related forgetfulness and the early signs of something more serious like Alzheimer's. Here's the key difference. Sleep-related memory problems tend to come and go. You'll have good days and bad days, and crucially, they get better when you finally get a good night's sleep. It's mostly about focus and recall. Alzheimer's, on the other hand, is a slow, steady, progressive decline.
A good night's sleep doesn't fix it, and it starts to impact your fundamental ability to learn new things and handle daily life.
But this is where the good news comes in. Really, understanding this connection isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to empower you. Because once you understand how this system works, you can start taking real, concrete steps to protect your brain for years to come. This might be the single most important takeaway from all of this. You can't change your genes, you can't change your age, but you can change your sleep. It is one of the most powerful things you have control over to lower your risk of cognitive decline. The choices you make every single night have a direct biological impact on the health of your brain.
So, when should you really talk to a professional? Well, if you have persistent memory problems, that's one. If your partner tells you that you snore really loudly or even seem to stop breathing in your sleep, that is a huge red flag. If you feel absolutely exhausted during the day, even when you thought you slept for hours, or if you just wake up feeling like your sleep wasn't refreshing at all, these are all excellent reasons to talk to a doctor. Getting on top of it early can make a world of difference. In the end, it all boils down to one simple, powerful truth. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity. It's when your brain saves what matters and, just as importantly, takes out the trash. So the real question to ask yourself is, are you giving your brain the time it needs to do its most important job?